No matter whether it's written, spoken, or taught, every message has only one top priority: to grab attention. Clever words, a charismatic voice, and exciting news can soon become boring. But stories have the power to not only wake up an audience, but to involve everyone in a life-changing experience that keeps them awake and wanting more. Writers, journalists, speakers, preachers, teachers, well, what do? A writer texts. A journalist reports. A speaker talks. A preacher instructs. A teacher informs. No matter what communication role you have, you face one potentially fatal problem: boredom. People's eyes may be open, but their minds are off in the clouds somewhere. You want to bring them into your world, to get onto your bus and not want to get off. During a long sermon, you might see a guy with his head bowed and his eyes closed. Is he praying? No. If you're close enough, you might hear snoring. Suddenly, he wakes up. Why? The preacher started to tell a story. That's right. Stories bring boring messages to life. They wake people up. What does a storyteller do? A storyteller captivates. Writers, journalists, speakers, and teachers are boring until they tell a story. What captivates an audience is story. Something unfolds. Something is at risk. Something that matters. Story turns your audience from the position of a listener or reader into being a participant on stage. Story invites listeners into a lived experience. Before we discuss structure, we should first understand why storytelling is the engine of engagement. What makes a story? A realistic, engaging, captivating story begins with a character in a situation of desperate want, facing obstacles of consequence. The end must be different from the beginning, where something is learned that changes the character for better or worse. And there's more to come. A sequence of words is called a dictionary. A sequence of facts is called an encyclopedia. A sequence of events is called news. All that can be boring, but a well-told story is different. In story, a character has a goal but faces serious obstacles that may make the goal's achievement impossible. The emotional journey from beginning to end of that experience changes your character. Something is learned from what has happened. The character either feels better or worse, but never the same. At the end, the goal is different, requiring a greater commitment from the character. The story continues to hold our attention because we already care about the character, are emotionally involved in the adventure, and just have to know what will happen next. How do we build a captivating story? Storytellers often debate what is the best approach. Before the writing begins, should we outline the plot, define character traits, and know what will happen? Or should we just write and let one thing lead to another? Some people are natural planners, but others would like to forge ahead right now and see what turns out. They will just enjoy the adventure and make adjustments later if they are needed. In school, your English teacher may have required an outline to be written first, so the story would flow seamlessly from beginning to end. But some students didn't do it that way. They chose to write the story first, and then they wrote the required outline. Each approach has strengths and serious weaknesses. Should it be detailed? Should we outline or write by the seat of our pants? Detailed outlines tend to force behavior that doesn't fit the character. Pantsing rambles without plot points necessary for a clear sense of direction and purpose. Readers don't want to wander without purpose, so pantsing might not be a good idea. Rigid outlining can force characters into behavior that isn't believable. Here's the good news. It really doesn't matter which approach you take, as long as your story contains the crucial parts that make it captivating. And we must follow the emotional journey, step by step, from its beginning to its natural conclusion. What are those crucial parts? Here are the 7 crucial elements for the emotional journey: situation, character, objective, obstacle, plight, insight and transformation, unresolved problem. Stories don't move readers by accident. Emotional engagement is the result of specific elements working together in sequence. Situation, character, objective, obstacle, and plight form a pathway that invites readers to be emotionally involved. Without that, readers may set your story aside and look for something good on cable TV. The S letter in SCOOP stands for situation. Situation is where and when. Readers must know where they are in place and time, or they are lost. Before readers can care about what's happening, they must know where they are. Situation anchors the story in time and place, giving the audience orientation and context. Without that, readers feel disoriented and detached. As soon as readers know where and when they are, they need to know who they are. Otherwise, they have no good reason to care. The C letter in SCOOP stands for character. Character is why we care. Readers want to become the point of view character in a scene. Readers don't bond with events. They bond with people. We may like the trees in our yard, but we don't usually hug them. We may pet, cuddle, and kiss our pets, but we most care about family and friends. Character is the story's doorway into emotional investment, especially when the story is told from the perspective of the main character in the scene. That emotional involvement appears when the character wants something that we would want if we were that character. The first O letter in SCOOP stands for objective. If the character doesn't want anything important, then readers don't want anything either, and we've lost them. The story is dead. Objective is a desperate desire. The story's momentum begins with an inciting incident, where it becomes clear that our character has a desperate desire that causes every action and reaction to make perfect sense. That passion drives every decision and keeps the narrative alive. Without vision, the story perishes. Without objective, the story is dead. But objective alone isn't enough. The second O letter in SCOOP stands for obstacle. Without obstacles, we have no story. Why? Life has obstacles. Without them, we can't relate the experience of story to what we know in our own lives. Obstacles put the outcome in doubt. If readers can guess the conclusion, then the story has no value. If success seems guaranteed, interest disappears. Obstacles exist to challenge the objective and create uncertainty about the outcome. Without that uncertainty, the story is over. Dead. Or at least on its last breath if readers can't see another problem coming. Just any obstacle isn't good enough. To be captivating, the obstacle must present a significant consequence. The P letter in SCOOP stands for plight. Plight makes the outcome matter. The higher the stakes for success or failure, the greater the impact. Stakes determine significance. Plight answers the question, what will the situation be if this fails? What if the goal is met? Why does it matter? The greater the cost of failure, the deeper the reader's emotional investment. Raising the stakes transforms a simple desire into a moment that makes readers desperate to find out what happens next. Finally, as we reach the end of a scene or chapter, readers must be rewarded with what was learned from the story experience, which changes everything from that point forward. The IT word in Scoop It Up stands for insight and transformation. Without a change in character, something learned through experience, the scene has no right to exist. Insight is what the character learns through experience, and transformation is how that knowledge reshapes the character, either for better or worse. The internal change will cause the character's thoughts, actions, and reactions ahead to make perfect sense, even though none of that was what we anticipated. Until death, the story doesn't have to end. There's a next scene, a next chapter, a sequel. To keep the forward momentum, we need the UP word in Scoop It Up, which stands for unresolved problem. Unresolved problems lead to the next open door. Whatever is resolved must anticipate an escalating situation ahead, or the story has lost momentum. Resolution doesn't mean closure. Effective storytelling resolves something while pointing forward to greater tension ahead. Every resolved scene should open the door to a deeper complication. We now know the 7 crucial elements of storytelling. Leave any one of them out in a scene and you don't have story. You might have news, an event, or information, but you don't have story that will captivate your audience. Before writing a scene, we need to establish where the character is, going in what direction, and for what purpose. We use Scoop It Up for the simplest of all outlines. For example, let's take the first chapter of the novel, Born Blind, Voice of a Visionary. Simply chart the letters for Scoop It Up something like this. Elements for a scene summary. S for situation, first century Jerusalem. C for character, Braca, 20 years old and pregnant. O for objective, son who will honor his father Seth. O for obstacles, the baby might well be a girl. P for plight, what other mothers will think of her. IT for insight and transformation, God blesses those who trust him. UP for unresolved problem, what if the baby has an affliction? Not only is this approach much simpler and faster than creating detailed plots, character charts, and outlines, but it makes sure you won't miss any of the crucial elements needed to grab and hold your reader's attention. Once the 7 elements are clear, they can be woven into a concise summary that acts as a compass for the complete scene. Which do you think is faster, writing a chapter of 2,500 words or a 2-sentence summary? You should hold off on writing the chapter immediately, because writing the summary will give you better focus on what needs to happen. That will save a lot of time in the long run. Using the simple Scoop It Up chart, we want to write a summary paragraph. In first century Jerusalem, pregnant Braca wants a son who will follow in his father's footsteps. But if the baby is a girl, what will her husband and other mothers think? She believes God blesses those who trust him. But what if the baby has an affliction? Scoop it up. It is the best way to write captivating scenes. Story becomes powerful when structure and creativity work together. The Scoop It Up approach brings all the elements into a repeatable process for building scenes and chapters that captivate, motivate, and make your message unforgettable. Readers won't know why they love your story, but they'll thank you for it and wonder why you're not yet a best-selling author.